morning, Natalie. Good morning, Ray. How are we?
Very well, very well. There are incidents aplenty for us to sort of sink our teeth into over the weekend and action, unfortunately. A few handball incidents. Go on, Mark, what are you going to say?
I was going to say, it's a regular issue now, isn't it, every Monday?
I know. And that is the problem, isn't it, unfortunately? But mainly because of the fact that the law is so subjective. And that's probably where we should start with this conversation. But let's go to Kenilworth Road, shall we, for Luton Wolves, where a Carlton Morris penalty secured Luton's first ever Premier League point. And it all came about after João Gomez was judged to have handled the ball. Gomez was penalised, despite the ball having deflected off his foot and then onto his hand. Before we get your thoughts on it, let's hear from the Wolves boss, Gary O'Neill, because he wasn't happy, as you can imagine. He was left bemused by it all when he was speaking to talkSPORT's Alex Crook, who asked him whether he would be expecting a call from PGMOL chief Howard Webb.
Yeah, looking forward to speaking to Howard. I might try him tonight, to be honest. I might speak to him tonight on the way home because we've suffered a lot, to be fair. I mean, my spell at Bournemouth didn't get one penalty. I think we were the only team not to have a penalty since VAR was introduced. The situation at Manchester United with Onana and the penalty decision that could have got us a point on Sasha Kaladzic. I thought they were sort of, a lot went Luton's way today, to be honest, in a lot of the situations. And then, the penalty is never, ever, ever a penalty, and no one will ever convince me any different. If it hits another body part before it hits your hand, especially the way the ball's going away from the goal is just... And the term unnatural position is, it's very complex. Like if you're falling one way, you're going to put your arm out naturally because you're trying to balance yourself. So there's, not that we need to go into that because it hit him on the leg.
It does seem, Mark, a lot of managers are saying, I'm expecting a call from Howard Webb after something that's happened in the game. But on that particular point that Gary O'Neill has mentioned and that penalty, where do you stand on it?
Listen, you cannot disagree with Gary. I mean, I think you've got to look at referees, their knowledge of law, their implementation of law. And if you look at that incident, you've got to ask yourself, was that a deliberate act? No. Was he in close proximity for when the ball was played? Yes. Was the ball played at pace? Yes. Was his arm in a natural position for that phase of play? Yes, because he's going to make a block tackle. If you've played the game, you know that his arm is in a natural position. I think at the moment referees are struggling with what's natural and what's unnatural. I mean, it was clearly never a penalty. And okay, Josh Smith he's seen it in real time. He's given it straight away. Perhaps not seen it come off his lower body or his leg. But John Brooks in VAR, that is a clear and obvious error. He's got to come in and help his colleague.
But Mark,
it's an error.
Yeah, look, I've read your piece in the paper today saying, the Romero one was a penalty, but I would say he's gone in to make a block tackle there, and his arm was in a natural position there. But he's given that.
But he has. I mean, you look at that, and he has made himself a little bit bigger in that situation. Does his arm need to be out like that? But the thing with that is, Ray, is that the ball's going in the back of the net.
Yeah, that's what I said to Natalie.
The ball's going in. So effectively, he stopped a goal because the defender wasn't going to get, the goalkeeper wasn't going to get because he was already on the floor. So, I mean, you can argue he was lucky that he didn't get sent off for denying a goal, an obvious goal. So, they can count themselves lucky there. But listen, on those situations, it's very, very difficult not to give a penalty when the ball's going into the back of the net. If his arm's down by his side in that, or it's closer to his body, then you could say, well, okay, he's not giving don't give the penalty. But when his arm's out like that and it stops the ball going into the goal, then it makes it really difficult not to give the penalty.
Mark, how do we make it more consistent? Because that's what people want. I don't know really the rules. Like Postacoglu's at the end going, well, I've not got a clue what's going on.
Well, as I said, Law 12, handling the ball. For me, it's not difficult. It's not difficult. Was it a deliberate act? Was his arm in an unnatural position? And you look at all those aspects, and obviously proximity, and does it come off his body? And it just straight away, it's just not a penalty. So I think there needs to be more training and education on law and interpretation, and on, perhaps they need to get a player into their meetings to say, look, what's natural and what's unnatural, because I know what's natural and what's unnatural. I mean, I didn't play the game at your level, but I played it non-league, semi-professional. So you've got that, sometimes it's not always about the laws of the game, it's about knowing the game. And
why are you not involved in, Mark?
Well, you'd have to ask the PGMOL.
Let's not open that can of worms.
That's right.
But I want to ask you very quickly, because a lot of people have been asking as to why Malo Gusto was sent off for Chelsea, but Eddie Nketiah wasn't for Arsenal.
Well, listen, I think he was very lucky. I mean, you can't argue with the Chelsea one. You can't argue with that. I think that's a clear. He's endangering the players' safety with excessive force, and I think that was a good use of VAR. On some occasions, we do see a good use of VAR, but on many other occasions, we see so much inconsistency. And I was surprised that VAR didn't recommend a review for the challenge on the Tottenham goalkeeper. Because that was a challenge that endangered the player's safety, and he was out of control. And the thing was with that, it was the ball had already gone.
Yeah,
so
it was late.
He didn't need to make that challenge. They didn't need to.
Yeah. Make sure you're available for next Monday, Mark. Yeah.
I'm here every week if you need me, guys.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.